So did Dez catch it? I mean, yeah, he did. There's no doubt that was a reception, but rules are rules. The past is the past. It's 2015 now. It's time to move on. For just the 9th time since they last hoisted the Lombardi Trophy 25 years ago, the Dallas Cowboys had a winning record in 2014. They went 12-4, won the NFC East, and were inches away from a potential NFC Championship game. Tony's Romophobia was cured. Coming into last December, he was just 14-19 in the frigid month, but improved that mark to 18-19 after the Cowboys went 4-0. Romo threw 12 touchdowns, just 1 interception over those last 4 contests. He then tossed 2 more in Dallas's wildcard win over Detroit, his 2nd career playoff victory. But the biggest winner last season was Jason Garrett, who saved his job after switching over from his gunslinging, play-calling strategy to a clock-draining running attack, depending on the best offensive line in football. 3 first-round picks on that offensive line. They ran the ball 508 times, 51.6% of the time, the 3rd highest ratio in the league. This came on the heels of a 36.4% clip in 2013, 30th in the NFL, and 35% in 2012, which was 2nd to last. Dallas wound up posting 147.1 rushing yards per game, 2nd to only Seattle, and averaged 4.6 yards a tote. In all, they scored 467 points, the 2nd highest total in team history. But with workhorse running back DeMarco Murray bolting to Philadelphia, how successful will the running game be this year? How much production can they expect from the oft-injured Darren McFadden and 3rd-year running back Joseph Randle, even with one of the best run-blocking lines in recent memory? And if there are some struggles on the ground early on, will Jason Garrett get impatient and resort to his old ways? So let's look at how many yards before contact that offensive line was averaging for Murray last season. Let's face it, McFadden isn't very good, and Randle isn't proven yet. But maybe they don't have to be. At the same time, I think it's extremely naive for Cowboys fans to think that Murray was strictly a product of the offensive line. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry, but 2.54 of them came after contact. Those yards after contact were 12th in the NFL. Is Murray overrated? Perhaps slightly, but he's no slouch either. So Dallas's offensive line gave Murray 2.16 free yards before contact every snap. Just a quick comparison, since Marshawn Lynch led the NFL in yards after contact, let's use him. He averaged 4.7 yards per tote, 3 coming after contact. That's 1.7 yards before contact every play. Seattle's offensive line isn't very good, but there's a 0.46 difference between the Cowboys and the Seahawks. Pro Football Focus said the Eagles were the best run-blocking offensive line in the league last season. I don't agree with it, but, rankings are rankings. PFF, does what they do. They gave LaShawn McCoy 2.14 yards per contact. That's just about the same as Dallas. What I think is going to happen, McFadden's going to start the year, but Randle will be the main guy by season's end. By the way, the offensive line gave Randle 2.5 yards per contact on his rushing attempts last season. So basically, I still think Dallas will be able to run the ball. I can see Randle averaging like 4.4 yards per carry, but it won't be to the same extent as last year. Due to the success of their run-first nature and continuing to churn the clock, the Cowboys ran the 9th fewest plays in 2015. They were able to hide some deficiencies of a much maligned defense and keep them fresh. That defense, however, more than lived up to the dire expectations levied against them when Sean Lee went down before the year. It was a unit that finished as the lowest ranked defense in 2013 and gave up the 3rd most yards in league history. In 2014, however, aided by the promotion of Rod Marinelli to defensive coordinator, the emergence of former bust Rolando McClain, and the developments of the underrated Bruce Carter, Tyrone Crawford, and Orlando Scandrick, the Cowboys finished 19th in total defense, allowing 351.1 yards per game and 15th in points allowed at 22 per contest. Why was the running game so important to that defensive success? Well, because they were 19th in total yards allowed per game. While they were 19th in total yards allowed per game, they were 27th in yards per play allowed at 5.8. While underrated guys like Justin Durant and Bruce Carter are now gone, Sean Lee will be coming back. Greg Hardy was signed, and Randy Gregory, a potential top 5 pick before a positive marijuana test at the Combine, was drafted in the 2nd round. It's going to have to be a unit that generates pressure with the recent injury to Scandrick, who tore his ACL in practice. He was the one solid piece in a woeful secondary. Brandon Carr is one starter, but who steps up opposite of him? Will it be draft bust Morris Claiborne, the raw but talented Byron Jones, the rookie out of UConn, or like a dark horse candidate like a Corey White or something? There's a lot of questions that have yet to be answered, but there's a lot of optimism in Big D as well. Now, let's go position by position and give my thoughts on each. Just wanted to let you guys know, in the description box, you will find rankings for each individual player. There's going to be team rankings. You know, you're going to see the parentheses. For instance, you know, for like the secondary, I'll have a ranking and then /32. Obviously, there's 32 teams in the league, so you'll see where, you know, I have each of the units ranked. I've got the team ranking at the end. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that stuff. So going position by position now, I'm going to give my thoughts on each, starting at quarterback. Romo comes off by far his best season as a pro. He led the league in passer rating at 113.2 and completion percentage 69.9. He threw just 435 times, the fewest he's had as a full-time starter. He put up 34 touchdowns to go with just 9 interceptions and was even talked about being an MVP candidate. The 35-year-old sidesteps pressure extremely well to go, you know, with that go-to spin move. He still throws an accurate deep ball, dangerous throwing on the move. Hopefully that cranky back holds up for Romo, because Brandon Weeden is atrocious. He had to fill in for him against Arizona last season. Didn't too hot. Huge downgrade there. And speaking of downgrades, I already gave you some of my thoughts on the running back situation. I really do think Randle's the guy to watch. McFadden's the sexy name, but the 4th overall pick of the 2008 draft was, you know, he's averaged just 3.3 yards per carry the last 3 seasons. Randle, meanwhile, averaged 6.7 a year ago. Obviously, that number is going to go down if he's the main guy, but I think he's more than capable of not only running over 1,000 yards, but getting near that 1,200 mark. Lance Dunbar is the other holdover. He's good at picking up the blitz, used more in the 3rd down situations. As for the receivers, Bryant got the big money he was looking for, agreeing to a 5-year, $70 million contract in late July. He caught a franchise record 16 touchdown passes a year ago, most of them coming in the red zone, where he's as acrobatic as they come. He does a lot of damage powering through defenders after the catch. But what about the help after Dez? Well, there's Terrance Williams and the underrated and shifty Cole Beasley, taking advantage of everybody keeping their eyes on Bryant. Williams caught 11 touchdown passes. I love Beasley, though. He's a great slot guy, catches just about everything thrown his way. And like I said before, very shifty and elusive when he gets the ball in his hands. Jason Witten saw his receiving numbers drop to 703 yards and 5 touchdowns, but that's because he was asked to block more and help out in the running game. Gavin Escobar, Witten's heir apparent, enters his 3rd year as a threat in the red zone, while James Hanna, he's more of an inline blocker. Left tackle Tyron Smith, center Travis Frederick, and right guard Zack Martin are the 3 first-rounders on Dallas's offensive line, while left guard Ronald, Leary, and right tackle Doug Free were at the 2 other spots a year ago. The Cowboys also won the La'el Collins sweepstakes after the former LSU star went undrafted, as teams were waiting out his standing in a murder investigation. He has a chance, you know, a really good chance to win the job from Leary. As great as that offensive line is, there were sometimes problems in pass protection. They gave up 30 a year ago, although that was still the 9th fewest in the league. But this is where Smith excels at, and Martin didn't give up a sack all year. Frederick has great lateral movement as a run blocker from the center spot. The Cowboys hope to improve their sack total of just 28 last season, which was 28th in the league, with the addition of Greg Hardy, who had 15 in 2013 prior to playing just 1 game last season. Due to a domestic violence incident, his suspension was reduced from 10 to 4 this season, so he'll be back on the field early, well, a lot earlier than expected. Defensive tackle Crawford, he's the guy who made the biggest leap forward a year ago. He missed all 2013 with a torn Achilles, now entering his 4th year out of Boise State. He's at his best in the running game using that first step quickness. I actually really like Crawford a lot. I think he's very, very underrated, which is unusual to have a guy underrated in Big D, but Crawford's definitely that guy. He kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and I think he's a solid player. Jeremy Mincey or DeMarcus Lawrence will start opposite of Hardy when he returns from his suspension. Lawrence was a 2014 second-rounder out of Boise State. Mincey had 6 sacks and 39 pressures a year ago. I do like Mincey, though. I thought he had a pretty good year last year. The wild card is Randy Gregory. He has all the physical tools, but it's a tough transition from the college to the pros for 4-3 defensive ends, so maybe you won't see as much production as you might think this year, but he's definitely a great talent for the future. Nick Hayden will start alongside Crawford. I don't think he's that good, but did lead all Cowboys defensive linemen with 52 tackles. At least I think Hayden's going to start. All eyes will be on Sean Lee at linebacker. He's never played an entire 16-game season in his 5-year career, but when he's on the field, he's one of the best, if not the best, cover linebackers in the game. I already talked about McClain earlier, although he will miss the first 4 games after violating the substance abuse policy. The interesting thing is that Lee will not move inside during McClain's absence and will stay on the weak side. Jasper Brinkley will start for McClain over the first 4 games. Kyle Wilbur is the other starting linebacker. He'll be the Sam guy. And yeah, that's that. That's the front 7. The loss of Scandrick in the secondary, that's a devastating blow. I mean, it really is, because there's not much behind him. Carr hasn't lived up to his contract so far. Broke his hand earlier this month. His timetable is unknown at this time, but I would think he'd be back. Then there's former first rounder Morris Claiborne, who tore his patella tendon in September and missed the season. He was really bad that first month, and this is an injury that's hard to come back from. This is the same injury that running back Ryan Williams had, and he was never the same. Jerry Jones is very, very confident that Claiborne will surprise some people. I'm not buying the hype, but, we'll see. All of a sudden, Jones is now thrust into the mix. I love his skill set and athleticism, but he's more of a project to me. I don't think he's ready to immediately contribute. It's hard enough for corners to transition from the pros, from college to the NFL. A lot of different subtleties from college to the pros, and he was already raw as it was. So I like him. I like his stock for the future. Again, it's like Gregory, but how much can you really expect from him this season? We'll see. The safety spot is a big concern to me. It looks like Barry Church and J.J. Wilcox will be the starters, with Jeff Heath and Danny McCray also in the mix. Church is the best of the quartet, definitely a starter. He led the team with 97 tackles, but I think Wilcox is a liability. His technique is really, really bad. So there's that. Special teams, well, Dan Bailey is the best kicker in the league. Chris Jones is a solid directional punter, and I'm not sure who will be returning kicks, but as of right now, undrafted rookie Lucky Whitehead of Florida Atlantic appears to be the one. Prediction time, I had Dallas going 9-7, earning a wild card berth before the Scandrick injury. I guess I'll keep it, but man, I'm not buying this defense. I'm just not, and the running game is going to have the hidden deficiencies again. I don't know. I think it might be a tough year in Dallas. We'll see. I mean, yeah, we'll see. 9-7, wild card berth. I got him having the 6th seed. But I'll tell you what now, with that injury now, watch out for teams like Minnesota. There's some underrated teams that, could step up, maybe St. Louis or something. So all of a sudden that, wild card's up for grabs. I don't see the Cowboys winning the NFC East. I'm not buying them this year. I don't know. I knew last year when Jason Garrett said he was going to turn to his running game, and I saw them play early on, and I was like, yeah, I thought they were in it for the long haul last year, but this year my gut says no. My gut says no. My gut says, maybe wild card team, 9-7, and that's that. So, yeah, let me know below what you guys think. What's your prediction on Dallas this season? Make sure, again, look at the rankings I have. Follow us on Twitter, @TheBitterBirds. This is my first of many, many preview videos because, I'm doing all 32 teams. So, hopefully I can get them all done in time. So, that's that. Again, I'm out of here later. And, well, Dezzy does Dallas.